Our house always seemed to smell of paint while I was growing up. Not the acrid industrial smells of wall paint, or even the more congenial kindergarten smells of children's poster paint. No, the smell that I remember was the warm and alluring smells of artists' oil paint, linseed oil, turpentine, wafting off canvases and into the nostrils of us children as we raced past Dad's studio on the way to our games. Both my parents are artists, and it seemed there was always some painting on the go somewhere. Dad would return from his long hours at the factory, light a cigarette, take up his brush, and pick up from where he'd left off. Growing up this way, the concept of self-expression was nothing new to me. When they tried to teach it to us at my prestigious private school, I had to laugh inside. Self-expression? Tell me something I don't know. It was mother's milk. And so, as a class, we began expressing ourselves, uncovering, as my parents had before me, I guess, that inner world of the soul and its patterns, those patterns that seem to elude articulation most of the time. And yet what we found, and what I found as we studied people like the German expressionists, is that when you lift the lid off your own soul, the picture there is not always pleasant. In my case, the artwork I started producing revealed a great inner turmoil and angst. We were encouraged to look within, and yet my self-portraits revealed that underneath the skin of this studious and mild-mannered scholarship boy lay a silent desperation, a lostness, a confusion. It was as if the pressure-cooked academic environment was at last exposing its hidden underbelly, its cruel effect, and that, in the words of the artist Goya himself, the sleep of reason was producing monsters. In the years that followed, I continued to paint, write poetry, sing, somehow trying to get a handle on this inner world of the soul with its shades of light and dark, although I must admit in my case it seemed to be more dark than light. But it seemed more real to me than the smiling faces and beer-swilling antics of many of my contemporaries. And yet what was it I was trying to get a hold of? As I explored this inner world of soul longing, it was like dealing with phantoms, really, losing one's way in a hall of mirrors. Sure, I was making reflections, but they were distorting. There was nothing solid there. I wish to God somebody had read me the book of Lamentations, because the Christianity I had known and embraced as a much younger teenager was by then a dim memory. And the excessive positivity and unblinking certainty of the faithful I saw felt galling. And in fact, I would duck and dive my way past those tract-wielding members of the shiny, happy Christian brigade, as I called them, characterizing them all in my heart as Ned Flanders, before there was Ned Flanders. But Lamentations, where were you in those years? I could have done with you a lot more than hearing about 2 ways to live. Because you described that soul pain of mine back then and now to a T.
I am the one who has seen affliction under the rod of God's wrath. He has driven and brought me into darkness without any light. Against me alone he turns his hand again and again, all day long.
He has made my flesh and my skin waste away, and broken my bones. He has besieged and enveloped me with bitterness and tribulation. He has made me sit in darkness like the dead of long ago. He has walled me about so that I cannot escape. He has put heavy chains on me. Though I call and cry for help, he shuts out my prayer. He has blocked my ways with hewn stones. He has made my paths crooked. And so as we sit here on Easter Saturday now, let's acknowledge the darkness. Let's acknowledge the very real tragedy of life, the soul pain we are each aware of inside us, in our own different ways, in which we each, with our own box of paints, try to express at times. But somehow, and this is the sheer undeserved miracle, that soul pain is not the end of the story. When the brokenness seems to win out, when the tragedy overwhelms, and when the acrid smell of confusion seems to reign supreme and the tomb of our hopes is sealed, somehow we find that the tale is not finished, the book is not over, because another chapter written by somebody else seems to drop into our lap. The cup of wormwood was a mixture of bitter herbs, and it was a symbol of the bitterness that can fill the earth during troubled times. And in the end, I guess there are times that you have to drink it. I mean, you can pretend it doesn't exist, that you never have to drink it, and that you can be a shiny, happy Christian all of the time, or at least try to. But the writer of Lamentations faced the wormwood. He says, "The thought of my affliction and my homelessness is wormwood and gall. My soul continually thinks of it and is bowed down within me." But, and this is the thing, after the wormwood, after the gall, there is the turning of soul, the turning of mind, and the turning of that great stone that sealed your hopes and dreams as it slowly begins to roll out of the way. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. And so on this day especially, let's not flee the soul pain we all carry. Let's not pretend it doesn't exist. Let's not deny the tragedies that have no doubt occurred in our lives that we carry, and the tragic circumstances of this world at this very hour. But let's also remember that this is not the end of the story. Suffering is not the final word. On the contrary, sometimes it just might be true that the darkest hour is right before the dawn.